everyone. Richard Solomon. We're featuring a beautiful new artist. We're with Spirits Republic. They're from Nashville. And yes, they are on the line, which is so awesome. So I want to introduce the band. We got Perry, we got Russell, we got Ricky. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right. So I by the way, what's that website address? SpiritsRepublicMusic.com?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So I saw some cool stuff on your website. I saw references to Led Zeppelin and Smashing Pumpkins, and a picture of, was it Kid Rock delivering murder hornets? Did I get that right? And then some kind of cooking demonstration that I really didn't understand. So, but it reminded me a lot of Monty Python. So you guys sound like a lot of fun. Let's talk about it. So first of all, you're all in Nashville, right?
Yes.
Yes, actually, all in the same house right now.
Oh, that's so Beatlesy of you.
Yeah.
So what is the Nashville music scene kind of right now? Now, for the people who are listening, this is during the pandemic, so things are a little bit more on the subdue side. But before everything happened, what was the Nashville music scene like?
If you can picture it, everyone is a musician. So it's just every crevice of music you've ever seen is somehow existing in this small southern city. So it really depends where you're smelling around, kind of. You know, there's country, there's rock, there's metal, there's hip-hop. There is really everything. So I think it's a pretty eclectic experience, you know?
How long have you guys all been living together in Nashville?
Russ and I, we both moved down here almost 5 years ago. And we've been playing music together for the past 4.5 years or so. And then,
kind of getting up there. Yeah,
I know, starting to get over the hill.
Well, we don't live together, but we do live pretty close to each other.
Yeah, we're partners in music, not in life.
Okay, well,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
that sounds very Seinfeld.
Yeah. We just basically watch a bunch of Seinfeld and South Park, and we just roll with it, you know.
Yeah, and then Perry joined the band just over a year ago.
And I've only been living in Nashville for nearly a year and a half. I'm the 26th. We're recording this on the 23rd, so yeah, officially a year and a half coming up. It's pretty crazy to think about. A lot has happened in a short period of time.
All right, so I got to ask Perry, first of all, you're from New York, so what was the culture shock like? You know, there's no cramming into the subways and dirty looks. And how did you survive?
Well,
how did you survive without all of that?
I had come down a couple times with friends from college and other musician friends just because I've loved the city for the longest time. The first trip was 4 years ago. It was spring break, my senior year of college. Like 6 of my friends and I piled into my buddy's Kia and drove down the 14 hours from Syracuse. And Russell's also from the few towns over on Long Island, so he's definitely been great to know and just kind of helped bridge the culture gap, so to speak. So it's like knowing someone from home in this new city has been phenomenal, and I really am so thankful for it.
How's the food down there?
It's so good. It's so good.
Hot chicken, just can't beat it.
Hot chicken and country gravy on everything.
I love country
yeah.
gravy.
Yeah.
Now,
I always say if I grew up down here, I would not be alive right now.
So in other words, the cardiac surgeons are the ones that dictate the menu?
Yeah.
Just to keep their jobs? I can tell you that as someone who's traveled a little bit, the food in New Orleans was always incredible. And I've been to Memphis, and I thought the food there was just absolutely spectacular.
Might be controversial, but I agree. Memphis barbecue is way better than Nashville barbecue. The ribs are just noticeably better.
And it's funny, there's all those different kinds of ribs. There's like the Carolina ribs, there's the St. Louis ribs, there's the Beale Street ribs. Everybody's got like a different way of doing it, but they're all mighty tasty.
Can't leave out Austin, Texas, though. They got some good brisket down there, for sure. Smokier than most, but I'm a fan.
So how would you say that the music and the food relate to each other in Nashville?
Well, in a lot of cases, musicians play at the restaurants. there's a difference between taking gigs that you want to take and taking gigs that'll pay you. And if you want to take a gig that'll actually pay you and you can stomach that kind of gig, in a lot of cases you're actually playing at all those good restaurants. So there's a lot of instances where you're kind of working for food and tips. In my experience, I never really hated it that much because the food was at least good enough to pull its weight and my weight.
Well, we'll work for food has been timeless since the Great Depression. So you never know. So how did you guys form a band together? So Russell and Ricky were already playing, and Perry kind of comes down. How did you guys know each other before from any other, endeavors or professionally or school?
Our original drummer, the one who I started Spirits Republic with, who's on the first album, Hourglass, was someone I went to college with in upstate New York at SUNY Oneonta. His name is Taylor Willingham, phenomenal drummer, and he was actually one of the few people I knew before moving to Nashville almost 5 years ago. So part of the decision of me moving here was like, well, at least I know this drummer I had already written music with, so we just started playing, the two of us, and eventually another friend from the same college that lives here had met Ricky at a party, and he knew I was searching for a bass player, and he's like, hey, I met this guy with a Red Hot Chili Peppers tattoo, and he's like, oh yeah, Red Hot Chili Peppers are kind of funky. Do you want to hit him up? And he connected me with Ricky, and then he came and played and jammed with Taylor and I, and that's how we met.
Yeah, honestly, I got a Facebook message from Russell, and I was like, who is this guy? I don't know if I want to answer him. But then I did, and it all kind of worked out.
All right, so if you had sort of a Captain Tennille tattoo, this would never have happened.
Yeah, probably not.
We almost named the band after the guy who connected us. We almost named the band The Wild Argyle, and I'm really happy we didn't.
So how are you, Spirits Republic?
As with most decisions we make as a band, it's just the name we hated the least at that point in time. I actually uncovered the list of band names we made before we chose Spirits Republic, and every single name was awful. There was Garsukra, Wild Argyle. What were some of the other ones? I don't even remember. But yeah, Spirits Republic, we were like, yeah, that one's not so bad. We just rolled with it. We actually found it in some book in Taylor's bookcase. The book was called The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. But we've actually never read that book. But we kind of want to say it was the ship from Star Wars. So I think we're just going to go with that from now on.
If you need an ancillary business, you can always become a distillery.
That is very true.
Right? And then you do, and you give away the music with with every bottle you get a CD.
We actually had a signature drink at one point. It was called the Spirits Republic, and it was disgusting. It was literally just every single liquor at the bar, and it was so gross. It was like a Long Island iced tea with that liquor that makes it green.
Absinthe?
No, I wish it was
Midori?
absinthe. I didn't have absinthe at that dive bar we were playing at. Yes, it was Midori and rum and tequila and gin, and it was all in proportion and with no ice. And it definitely got you there. And the people who drank it really enjoyed the show, or at least the part they stayed inside for. But yeah, we got to work on our Spirits Republic signature drink, that's for sure.
Well, I can tell you about the Tequila Mockingbird, but that's a story from My Father's Place. By the way, I know Perry from My Father's Place. So for all the My Father's Place fans out there who are listening, Perry was always a very instrumental part of a lot of the live shows and some of the great video work that came out of the interviews that we did. So my hat's off to Perry for really doing outstanding work.
Thank you, man. I mean, it was in large part just because of this show you had going on and all your interesting guests and their backstories, and I'm, thrilled that now we get to be a part of it.
So there you go. See, there's synchronicity and synergy everywhere you look. It's just a matter of, I guess putting the right plug in the right socket.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
and not standing in water when it happens.
Yeah. By the way, I was able to go. So I don't know if anyone here knows this. There is a website called Drinkify, and you can type in a band's name, and it will come up with a signature drink for them. So the Spirits Republic, it's also like tied into Spotify, which is how it gets all the names. But the Spirits Republic is 6 ounces of Bombay Sapphire Gin, 6 ounces of tonic water, and 1 ounce of Rose's lime juice. And it says combine in a highball glass and serve, and to garnish with a twist of grapefruit. There you go.
So our original drink is a gin and tonic with just some juice in it.
With a fruitier gin and tonic, basically.
Yay.
And
Honestly,
I
I would picture it being like a Busch Light with like a drop of acid and a cigarette butt.
the 60s are long gone. I mean, long gone. The 60s are 60 years old at this point.
We should keep it true to New York. Do like a Genesee Light with a cigar butt.
Oh,
and then,
there you go.
Yeah, put a tab of acid in it and see what happens.
So, Perry, on Drinkify, if you put in Tchaikovsky or Mozart, what do you get?
Well, first I have to spell Tchaikovsky, which I think is Tchaikovsky.
I'm pretty sure that's as close as I can get.
It just says a bottle of red wine at room temperature.
I'm trying to. What about Stradivarius?
Oh man, you're making me earn my typing skills.
well, one
2
time,
ounces of LSD. Serve neat, serve vigorously. Garnish with a wedge of pineapple.
oh,
That's that instrumental prog rock for you.
Well, here's a good question. If you're going to do drinks, what do you have for the doors?
What would I have, or what would the site?
No, what does the site say? I'm just fascinating. What does the site
Does it say Ruthie Colada? I feel like that's
It is only 1 ounce of LSD. Serve on the rocks. Stir quickly, and then garnish with a twist of grapefruit. So,
Well,
you know, they seem to be a fan of the psychedelics on this site. So,
All right. Well, for those who don't know, like LSD stands for lysergic acid diethylamide. So there you go. A little bit of trivia for
Boom.
everyone. All right. So back to the music, and let's talk about some of the great influences because we're talking about Mozart, Tchaikovsky, The Doors, everybody. When you guys were young, well, and not that you're old now, but when you guys were young, and you were all like listening to music, who did you listen to? Who are the things, what were your like favorite bands that you would go to listen to live on the radio? Let's start with Perry. Who do you listen to?
me, oh God. I'm the baby of the band, just for reference. My dad was big into smooth jazz on CD 101.9, so definitely a lot of Kenny G and a lot of Bob James, Spyro Gyra. And then my mom was definitely more of the rocker, so she introduced me to bands like Styx, Boston, kind of from the late 70s, early 80s. Well, they both really loved Phil Collins. That was actually the first concert they ever took me to. I was 10, and Phil Collins was playing.
Was that
at
Phil
the
Collins
Garden.
solo or Genesis?
That's a fantastic question. And he played plenty of Genesis songs. I remember Lee Sklar was on bass, Ricky, so it was definitely a treat. But yeah, Phil Collins, just so a fusion of my dad's jazz taste and my mom's rock taste ultimately led itself to prog rock. So by the time I got around to, late middle school, high school, I was really into Pink Floyd and Rush and, Zeppelin, The Who. And then it kind of got mixed in with more metal as I got older. So bands like Dream Theater, Mastodon, Meshuggah, the list goes on and on. But anything that basically I felt would make me a better drummer was what I gravitated towards.
And while we're talking with Perry here, what was the radio station that you listened to at those times? Or the radio station?
I personally, I did actually listen to a lot of CD 101.9 just because my dad always had it on in the car. And then, obviously there was the pop stations like, what was it, C100, 100.3, and WBAB, like a alt-rock station out of, I think, Babylon.
Yep, 102.3, WB, well, BAB,
Yeah,
Babylon.
102.3, right?
Yeah. And I would always see their van outside of shows.
Oh, yeah, the black van with the yellow lettering. Yep.
That's the one.
Yep.
Yep. So those were probably my my main three before I got lost in the digital streaming and downloading of MP3s that really kind of just destroyed radio. But enough of that.
No, not in the last 1 minute. Were the record stores still around when you were growing up?
hard to find,
Yeah.
but around.
Tower Records, Carl Place. Was that?
Ooh,
Was
I
that,
don't know about them.
Were they gone already?
I don't think so, because I didn't get a record player until after I was already in college.
Got it.
Says they declared bankruptcy on February 5th, 2004. Is that what it is?
It's hard to believe it's been that long. Yeah.
So I was not even 10 years old at that point.
Oh, there you go. All right, so this is Richard Solomon. I have Perry Russell and Ricky from the band Spirits Republic, spiritsrepublicmusic.com. We will be right back after this break. Keep it locked in, and got a lot more ahead of us. And these guys are hilarious, so just you'll enjoy every moment, as I am. Keep it here. Richard Solomon rocking you on Taking Care of Business. We are with the band Spirits Republic, spiritsrepublicmusic.com. And we're just kind of taking a nostalgia tour with the band about their influences. So now we're up to Russell. Russell, so who did you like growing up, and who were your musical influences?
They're definitely vast. But to piggyback off of one of the questions you asked Perry about record stores, one of my first memories was going to Mr. Cheapo's Records in Comac, New York. That's where I'm from. The first piece of music I ever bought was Weird Al Running with Scissors on cassette tape. And I don't know why, but Weird Al was my absolute favorite until at the age of 7. I guess it's because it was just good songs that he was making fun of, and I just got such a kick out of them. And then for whatever reason after that, it was The Offspring. I just thought they were the coolest band for a long time. Okay. And then I took a walk down hair metal, and I really liked Green Day. And that was until about teenage years, and I discovered something about cannabis that changed me, and I heard Dave Matthews Band and started listening to some freakier music, discovered some Radiohead and some, I don't even know. I saw Fish for the first time when I was 15 or 16, and kind of took a walk down that side of the street. But
the jam band thing?
Somewhat jam bands, but more bands that took an experimental turn. See, Ricky doesn't like jam bands, so he just peered out of the door at the end of the hall and just looked at me.
Gave you the stink eye?
He gave me the stink eye. But that's it. But what we do see eye to eye on, one of probably my favorite concert ever was when I was in 8th grade. My mom took me and my two friends, who were also my bandmates of teenage years, to go see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it was life-changing. I think just anything that kind of has that edge to it, that, I've always been attracted to funk and anything that's guitar heavy. And I actually didn't start singing until I was almost 19 years old. I was always a guitarist growing up, and no one was singing the kinds of songs that I wanted to be playing. And I remember just locking myself in my college house for a year and just learning a bunch of Beatles songs and different psychedelic rock, and just kind of learning that way. So, I guess that's kind of an overview of some favorite people.
So I'm gonna leak out some information out there. We're working on a television show for My Father's Place. One of our first shows is going to be about the Beatles and the Beatles' connections to the various artists that have performed at My Father's Place. And a lot of the interviews that we've done on My Father's Place Radio have been with people who've actually either been at Shea Stadium and saw the Beatles, or introduced the Beatles, like Cousin Brucey at Shea Stadium, or were, eventually people who played with various members of the Beatles, like Frank Carrillo played with George Harrison, Denny Lane played with Paul McCartney when they were in Wings. So what was the Beatles' influence on you? Because you certainly didn't grow up in the 60s, so you didn't get that, you know what I'm saying? You weren't part of that whole thing. But that music still resonates today and is still getting new fans today. So what did it do, and how did it affect you? Good.
It's interesting because my dad really liked the Beatles, but he didn't like any of the cool Beatles music. He only liked the early Beatles, and I had heard all that growing up, and it didn't have that much of an effect on me. And I think it was hearing the White Album when I was in high school, and hearing Revolution 9 and all the songs on that are just really kind of out there that I feel like it started growing actually when I was older. And like, I feel like even over the last like 5 years, just really diving into the catalog and the diversity of the music. But I think like the basis of just like growing up around like, you know, they have just dozens of songs that are just straight up hits, you know, like they're just such great songs, and then realizing they have this whole back catalog of songs that are equally intriguing, and then like studying music and like learning about music and what it's made out of, and realizing how intricate a lot of their arrangements were. You know, it's just like an endless catalog of musical greatness. I don't know.
What is it about the Beatles music that resonates in you as a musician?
I think for me, it's just I'm like watching Perry scroll, and there's some really funny pictures of the Beatles. He's such like a
Jamie from Joe Rogan. I'm pulling up all the things.
I think it's like as many times as you hear the songs, there's always something new to hear. You know, the songwriting itself is great, but also just the musical nature of it. The arrangements are they're so well thought out. There's just always something to get out of them. You know, it's just such pleasing music in a lot of ways, for me at least.
And what was the radio stations that you would, you know, check out when you were growing up?
It was pretty much exclusively K-Rock when it was 92.3, 102.3, and then 104.3.
Okay. So those,
that was,
those are all the local stations. Did you ever listen to, was it XRP? When CD 101.9 changed its format, they went to an alternative format for a while. It's only about a year.
Oh,
or so.
yeah.
RX. I think it was RXP.
Like,
Mac Pinfield, I think, was on there.
101.9.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to them?
Yeah, definitely.
Because they played like The Offspring, a lot of that stuff in their day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely did.
Right. I was mad at them for leaving the smooth jazz format, so I didn't give them the time of day.
I would just hit the speak button and just like see what came on that I actually liked. And then like 101.9 was good. 92.3 was not K-Rock for, you know, most of my high school years. I was like, all right, it's over.
I'm going to go to Ricky, but I do want to ask you guys all about radio and its rise and fall. But let's go to Ricky first. Ricky.
Yeah.
All right. So what formed your musical soul? What did you listen to? What did you like? What did you savor?
I was big into all the 90s rock. Smashing Pumpkins, Chili Peppers, Primus. Primus, I would say, is my biggest influence with actually playing bass. Other than that, Violent Femmes I really like. Kind of more like the acoustic punk type stuff was really, really cool. Brian Ritchie's a phenomenal bass player in that band. Donovan, really like Donovan.
Okay.
The old 60s, just folky type rock. Alanis Morissette, Jewel. No. Yeah, I mean, just 90s rock, just kind of the weirder, the darker, the more I like it.
So I got to ask you guys, you know, we see a music progression. There's like the you know, obviously there was the 50s and there was like that whole 50 music scene. And then the 60s really brought, I guess, a lot of social change and unrest was reflected in the music. I interviewed Cousin Brucey, and he talked about that, you know, it's the poets that talk about what's going on. And then I think in the 70s, it was, you know, you had sort of things like Skinner and the Outlaws and Molly Hatchet and the Allman Brothers and the whole Southern Rock and Steely Dan. And of course, you had like the Zeppelin and the Who. The Beatles were sort of already kind of like winding down in the 70s. And then the 80s had that explosion of, you know, the 80s music. In the 90s, we saw sort of like grunge and metal and edgier stuff. But then, I don't know, what happened after that? It almost seems like that music didn't have any more of a trajectory anymore, of a path, that it just kind of went in 1,000 directions. And because it went to 1,000 directions, there was no one real place to get sort of music, like in a record store. I know Mr. Cheapo's or whatever, because isn't there one also in Mineola on like Hillside Avenue that's still around, believe it or not? That's Scrooge Records, and I know I don't know if it's still there anymore, but there's a place called Vinyl Bay out in somewhere, I think in Suffolk County. I forgot where, but record stores, and not only did the record stores go, but now the cars, today's cars, not the band, the cars, but today's cars don't even have CD players. So
no.
So what exactly happened, in your opinion, to music? So there's all this like 90s music, and then what happened after 2000? It just all became like streaming. It did become streaming right away. It took a while for that to happen. There was definitely a gap between 2000 and say 2015. All the radio stations formats changed. A lot of it became sort of very uninteresting.
I think also, because I think with album-oriented rock radio not being as relevant, I think that was in its heyday in probably the 70s, would you say?
I'd say that.
Yeah. So I think just the attention span for music just absolutely declined. And you had people looking for those radio hits at 2.5, 3.5 minutes, or just something that would be seen in a TV show or a movie. So more of those fringe alternative musicians bands, so to speak, kind of suffered as a result of that, and then fell for the more commercial, lyrical-based music that, still dominating today. I mean, you have all these digital apps. We're even so old that, now it's TikTok, which you have young kids, right? So
yeah.
Are they on that app constantly?
No, because there's...
You raised them right, clearly.
There's this thing called school.
Good.
You got to show up once in a while for that.
Yeah. But it's just like these short form videos, and it's like people just want a song with a catchy melody, a catchy lyrical hook, and that's really all it really takes to blow up overnight. So I think with that, in our lifetime, you had, I think the first iPod came out, and I want to say 2001, iPhone in 2007. So with all of that, just this multimedia landscape, it's really just music adapting to fit the technological times. And especially with live music not being available given the current world situation, you're seeing a lot more of hip-hop, electronic, sort of that level of musicianship and songwriting that goes into it, just kind of a quick fix.
So how do you guys adapt to that reality and try to still be commercially viable as a band?
For me, it's just always been this way. As long as I've been listening to music, this is the shift that has always been there. But we used to kind of think about it on a more old school scope. At least, in the last year and a half, we just try to write music that's interesting to us, that challenges us, that we think people will enjoy. And we just focus on, like, when we play live, we just want to make it memorable. We just want to be at that level and just hope that it translates. And as you could tell by our various videos and our cartoons, we find that stuff funny, and we try to keep up with it, make sure we're making content to share on that level. But, I think the thing is just trying to be genuine about it and not put out things that aren't really us. Has it worked?
Well, has it worked? The question is, has it worked for you?
One of the things that drew me to this band, one of the things I didn't talk about in the last segment, was how I got to be involved with these two fantastic musicians. Was I moved to Nashville at the end of May, right after the 10,000 Maniacs show at my father's place.
I was there.
I think not even a week later, I was at a house show in East Nashville at the same Trenchtown venue, seeing three guys just absolutely crush it. And just the technicality and the crowd response was just infectious. I mean, any fan of music who was there could clearly just see the chemistry these guys had. I actually went to college with Russell's girlfriend, so when I was moving down here, just like looking for friends to make and people to hang out with, she was obviously one of the first people on my list to contact. So I think we met the first time at, I want to say, Tin Roof down on Broadway.
I have no recollection.
It was a fun night. That's all I can say. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying, just I think the level of musicianship and just the ability to write the music that we wish we were hearing from the bands that we like. And a lot of that comes with some interesting changes and some interesting riffs put in there. And I think that's going to be very instrumental in getting people's attention, is saying, oh, I didn't expect that part to come after that part. Ricky can definitely attest to that, given all of his influences. I think it's a nice meshing of genres and styles, and it's certainly unlike any project I've ever been a part of before. So
Definitely a meeting of the mind.
Yeah, and like we definitely try to write some stuff that's fun, and like when people see it, there's like that feeling of like, oh, like this is a good time. Like we thrive in like a party atmosphere, where like so many people like just hop up on stage and just play music, but it sounds good, but it's like, oh, it's just a song being played. So like we always try to step it up some more and just have fun on stage, and that hopefully and usually translates to the crowd like having a good time.
Well,
usually.
Usually. Well, sort of interesting, when you look back in music history and you look at some really long songs like In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, Awaken by Yes, the Thick as a Brick album, which is basically like 2 songs, that music, I guess, will never really be recreated anymore because it's just too long. But do you feel that that's, it's lost, and that as musicians you can't really, do you feel compressed by time to have, the 3-minute song? Do you feel constrained by that? And we only have a minute, so I'll take 30 seconds and then we'll pick it up on the other end.
I would say no, because I think we have one song that's like 3 minutes long. The rest are 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes long.
Okay.
It's true. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
All right.
City Lights and Prize are the only songs I think that are under 4 minutes.
All right. So this is Richard Solomon. I am talking with the Spirits Republic Band. It is Perry, Russell, and Ricky. They're in beautiful Nashville. And we're talking about music, and we'd like you to stay right here. We will continue right after this really quick break. We'll be right back. And we are back. Richard Solomon rocking you guys out in Radioland. Thank you for listening. If you're checking us out on our podcast, we're on all kinds of platforms, including My Father's Place Radio is actually on Amazon Prime, believe it or not. So that's kind of cool. All right, we are with the band Spirits Republic. And one of the things that we love is to talk about young emerging bands. And the reason why is when they become super famous, I'll always be able to get them back. So, there is an agenda here. Anyway, we are with Perry, Ricky, Russell, and we're talking to them from Nashville. Now, we were talking when the break was going on, and apparently there's a cool concert piece called Spirits Republic Live at the Common Man, or Live at Common Man. Perry, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so actually it's fitting because the first ever time I saw Ricky and Russell play in the previous iterations of Spirits Republic live was at Common Man Studios' home music venue, which is conveniently in their basement, which is Trenchtown, across the river in East Nashville. Like 5 days, I think, after I moved here, and the energy was great. And fast forward all the way to mid-September 2020, and Zach was kind enough to get us in there on a Sunday afternoon and do 2 half-hour sets where we do a few old Spirits Republic songs prior to me joining, a few ones that I helped write, and then some never before heard songs. So there's part one of the live session at Common Man is now on YouTube. You just type in Spirits Republic Common Man, it'll come up, and part 2 will be up sometime probably either late 2020 or early 2021.
It always makes me think of Emerson, Lake and Palmer doing Fanfare for the Common Man when you say that.
Oh,
so
I love the MP.
So let's talk about some of the music that you're currently writing. What is inspiring you? I know that you say you like to be funny, but with everything that's going on, what exactly is funny, and let's also talk about streaming in the same conversation. Most people don't realize that the streaming services, what do they pay you? Like 1/1000th of a penny for every play you get, or something like that, or something close to that.
Yeah, we have like something like, I think we have almost 80,000 streams at this point. Like we have like $100, if that.
Right. Congratulations, you've hit 50,000 streams. Here's your nickel.
Well, with that three-way,
Exactly.
Sister kid comes and hangs out a bit. And, yeah, we're doing it. Like we got some whiskey for this interview, and that is actually 1/3 of the Spiritual Public revenue.
So, how do bands really make money in an age where, right now, touring is really off the list of possibilities?
Think licensing.
Maybe other bands. We all have day jobs.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
I would say probably OnlyFans.
It's funny. I've interviewed a lot of bands in my day, and it is truly amazing how even well-established local bands, you talk to the different people, and they do have other endeavors that they're doing. Either they're video production guys, or they're producers, or they're recording engineers, or they rent out studios, or they teach music. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially. Do you think that streaming really hurts bands in the sense that there's no economic reward like there may have been for maybe radio play or something else?
I think the simple answer is yes, but at the same time, this is where music has evolved. So, the fact that the internet exists, the way to share music for free has existed for over 20 years at this point. It's just kind of the way it is. Prior, obviously, to COVID, the whole industry shifted to the majority of income being made from live performances and merchandising and things like that, and recording became secondary. So it's almost like nostalgic in a way that we probably never in our lives actually experienced, to know what it's like to make a income on music sales. Yeah, there's money coming in, but like to the cost that actually, like, it costs money to actually make it ourselves, so it's like, we've only really seen income as a band from the shows we've played, and been able to split that up as like almost cash as is, and then it's our personal endeavor to continue making music, to record it in a way that is better than doing it ourselves, essentially.
Where does music need to go so that it's more viable for bands, given the current realities of not really touring right now?
Yeah, I just want to add to Russell's point, as much as musicians are hurting, all of our friends who are home studio owners, and just anyone involved in the real nitty-gritty behind the scenes, the reason music can be heard, the reason music sounds the way it does. It's such a universal realm that we try and help out as much as we can the people who have helped us out. So it's very reciprocal. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just multimedia based. I think the attention span has really gone down. As I've mentioned before, I think if you could land a song on a Netflix or Hulu show, that's sometimes better than a whole year of touring will do for you. That's the reality of it. So,
right, or getting on a video game, or I don't know.
Sure.
Being in a
Any
soap
soundtrack,
opera.
movie score. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. You watch a lot of television shows, and they play not well-known pieces as part of like the actual show to accompany the dialogue, because maybe the song matches the theme of what is being portrayed in a particular scene, and someone's looking for that music, and obviously someone's writing it. The question is, how do you as a band get into that realm and get discovered, so to speak? Is that something where you have to be more in Hollywood or than Nashville to really get hooked into that?
If and you're holding out on us.
And let me tell you, this show is a platform of networking. if anything, Perry will tell you that. So, by the way, for all those TV people out there who are listening, if you need any music for your scenes, drop us a line and we'll hook you up with the band. So there you go.
Yeah, car chases, car crashes.
Well, I'll look for spy movies and whoever's producing a spy movie.
Spy movies,
flying cars, underwater cars.
Regular cars.
Well, maybe when the next spy thriller comes out, maybe we can kind of get you in the production, so to speak.
Spy Kids 7. We will offer you 40% off, and Ricky's 1 year to his OnlyFans account.
You get personalized content once a month.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys do to keep in touch with your fans? Do you have a newsletter? I mean, obviously you have a website, but what do you do to keep the fires burning and your name relevant?
I feel like it's mostly Instagram for us.
Yeah.
We do post on Facebook and sometimes on Twitter, although I don't understand Twitter. I never have.
Yeah, between Facebook and Twitter, it's been so political the last however many months, even still in the aftermath of the election. It's just not good territory for anyone trying to garner a following. Instagram's a bit more for the...
People seem to interact with us on Instagram more so than Facebook per se. And we
just
try to
seems
be
more
real
jovial
update on what we're doing.
Well, let's talk about social media for a second, because at one time there was MySpace, and I'll never forget. People were like, "Oh, you got to be on MySpace," and then of course, then it was like, "Oh no, the new thing now is Facebook," and then it was sort of like, "No, now you got to be on Twitter," and then it was like, "No, you have to be on StumbleUpon or whatever that's called," and then it became Instagram. It seems like for a while someone has taken the lead in the space, and then for some reason, whether it tastes change or it's just people looking for something new or whatever, it keeps being shaped. Because if you tell people about MySpace now, they'll be like, that's like the Pony Express of social media, So where's the place where people for music and music fans and all those other people converge? Because it's got to be something more than just websites.
Silence.
Oh, yeah.
It's a thinker, it is. Because I think it depends on the kind of music you're looking for. I think musicians will venture towards YouTube, Bandcamp, especially if they're involved in their local music scenes, like I was for so many years on Long Island, as Russell was. I think just kind of trying to be supportive in any way you can.
People use Spotify, but not necessarily. They'll discover artists, but it's just in a big pool of playlisting. And we've had most of our success, as you would say, on Spotify, just being heard on there. But having it actually translate to different social media platforms and having people interact with you directly, it does happen. But it's a confusing ratio, that's for sure. The way people consume music and how they actually, you're just one blip in their radar. They're not picking up your big vinyl record with your face on it with your thing anymore. They just have like that one song mixed in with all the other songs, and I think we're trying to figure it out. I don't know if we'll ever really fully understand it ourselves because we're so painfully jaded in our ways.
We don't run the social media scene anymore. It's now the younger generation of TikTok and whatever it is. But I think the people that want to hear the music will know where to find it. And we're going to keep putting it out on the platforms that we know will get the people that are interested in it. And that's all you can really hope for at the end of the day.
What we need is an intern.
You need a staff.
Intern for two reasons. One, we don't have to pay them. Two,
that's not true anymore. That's not true anymore. That's there's been changes about that. But we'll talk about that offline.
I don't know. I think you can
get
away
with it here.
We can't even get an intern anymore.
I think you either have to get like real college credit, or if it's something that is my understanding. Again, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that.
I'll give them a credit. Want him a shekel?
Yeah. So, all right. So, obviously, you need an intern. We all need staff. All right, we all need. But here's the question for you guys: does the city of Nashville or the Nashville music scene have a central portal that people go to that says, "Hey, here's all the live shows this month. Here's all the people in town recording. These are the current releases." Is there anything like that? Sort of almost like the
Nashville scene.
like the music
Nashville scene.
Nashville scene is good. I usually, because you could submit your shows on there. So if you're like active, like when we were playing shows, I would make sure to submit all the shows on Nashville scene. And that's a pretty good centralized way. Band is in town also, weirdly, is good for Nashville. Not all cities in the U.S., but yeah, I mean, there's a couple like Lightning 100. We were fortunate enough to be on. That's like the local station here. That's a pretty good centralized place for local music. But it's vast. I mean, everyone who lives here is basically a musician. So it's,
there are some people that kind of just compile their own lists of local bands that are playing shows throughout the week. There's this one guy, Corey. He has his own thing. I didn't necessarily know what he does, but he consistently posts like, all right, like Friday night, all these bands playing at these venues. Saturday night, same thing. These bands at these venues. So there is still people that care about like the local music and want to get people out to those shows. It's not just like a Broadway band that's playing like songs that every other bar is playing at that time.
To clarify, Broadway is like the downtown area of Nashville that has like a couple dozen cover band bars that are pretty. It's just its own monster of a music scene. It's like the Bourbon Street, except they only play like very redundant country music and classic rock covers.
All right, so in this part of the broadcast, we only have a couple of minutes left. I'm sure what we'll do is when we end the FM broadcast, we'll add some additional content for our YouTube audience, and we'll do a little extra. But in the time that we have left right now, what are you guys working on? And is there EPs, tours, anything that's in the lab being cooked up, ready to be released at some point down the road?
Well, what comes next for us, I mean, honestly, the COVID dynamic has pretty much made it. We're just thankful of the fact that we actually, the whole time, minus our own individual scares with like thinking we had COVID, we just meet up like 2 or 3 times a week, and we're just like song by song, just writing new songs. So we already have an album's worth of material that we've just worked on since the start of COVID because we just don't have shows, nothing to rehearse for. So that's, I mean, we're just really stepping out there as far as how we're writing music, the ways that we're collaborating together, just song by song, being like, we're just going to keep meeting up and keep working on music that's interesting to us. And then when the time is right, we'll throw it on an album or an EP or
in the last minute,
3 vinyls.
In the last minute that we have left, does Nashville radio play any of you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what stations down there with that?
So our first single of 2020 came out in mid-April. It's called Decor. You played it at the start of the show,
yes.
And that was played on the Buzz.
1029?
1029, correct. And then we had our second single, City Lights, come out on Lightning 100. Then we had On and Bound come out, and then a cover of MGMT's Kids at the end of last month. So we're churning out new music very, very quickly.
All
so
right.
We're definitely staying active.
All right, that's all the time we have for this FM broadcast. But for those out there, check out our YouTube site because I have a feeling we're going to have some extra stuff for your musical delight over there. This is Richard Solomon with the band Spirits Republic. Thank you for listening. Check them out at spiritsrepublicmusic.com. We'll see you next time. All right, one of the great things about being in the world of music and dealing with great musicians and technologists is having the ability to, after an FM broadcast, has too much stuff to stick into that 1 hour, we can kind of do this really cool part that's really just on YouTube and have the band talk about all kinds of stuff, embed music, embed videos, and all this other stuff. So for all of those who are joining us for this portion, it's Richard Solomon from Taking Care of Business and other radio shows. And we're with the band Spirits Republic. We just did a great 1 hour radio show with them, but we had more things to talk about. So I want to kind of put in this all the stuff that couldn't fit into the format. So again, we have Perry, Ricky, and Russell from the band Spirits Republic. They're cool, they're wacky, they're fun. They're from Nashville. So let's talk about some of the music in detail. So we opened the FM show with Decor, but it's hard. I didn't have a soundboard. And with the pandemic, everything's hard to engineer the way we used to in the studio with, multi-tracking and CD players and phone connections. We have some limitations. So let's talk about the song Decor. Is that your first single?
That was the first single of 2020. Yeah.
All right. So what's that about? And then we're going to play that. So just give me a little, if I was on the air right now and I was going to introduce the song and we're all in the studio and we're doing the whole, the famous interview with the band kind of thing before we play the song, how would you set up this song?
Well, Decor was actually written a couple of years ago while I was on tour as a backing guitarist for a country artist in Norway. And the lyrics and the basic theme of the song really were just about being in a very unfamiliar environment and being in a hotel room in the middle of nowhere in Norway and being wow, this is very universal decor. And I'm not a big fan of country music and kind of just coming to terms with why I was there and having this amazing experience and the whole thing. But it was a very basic idea and it never really saw the light of day off the bat. Weirdly enough, it was next in the song lyric book next to the song Backtrack, which was on the first album. But when we started playing with Perry, it just seemed like the right song to kind of start the musical chemistry with, and it just took on a life of its own. We totally collaborated that thing in and out together and just made it the song that it was.
And is. So without further ado, let's go play the song Decor, and then we'll pick it up right after that.
Uniform, black and white TV is what I see in you. I awoke in this new world, overtired, without a care. Look at what you've left behind. Looking back, you press rewind. Universal decor. Imagine uniform, black and white TV is what I see in you. Your language interchangeable. Take shelter. Face the wall. A lump sum praise for those who go. Eyes wide shut, no one will know. 4,000 miles back again. A toast to those free again. Universal decor. Imagine uniform, black and white. Is what I see in you. Your language interchangeable. the wall. Interchangeable. Take shelter. Face the wall.
So this is Richard Solomon continuing on our special bonus feature with Spirits Republic. We just heard the song Decor. Now there's another song called On and Bound. Let's talk about that one before we play it. Who would like to address that one?
That's definitely Ricky, because that's like, at least when we play live, it's always like, hey, Ricky's going to do something nasty to you, and then it starts.
Yeah, so it starts with a lot of slap bass. That song just kind of came from just jamming. We started working on it right before Perry joined the band. And it was just kind of a cool song, but Perry came in and it's just so much better with him in there.
That song was literally like, you know, we jam. That's like how we start practices a lot of the times. And it was just like, Ricky's a great slap bass player, and that song was just one of those times when we came into the rehearsal room and it was like, yeah, let's do something funky and weird. And then he's just like, all right, G sharp minor of all keys. And then that thing came out, and then we just, that's what it was. And it's like, all right, we got this funk song. Let's throw a nasty, disgusting breakdown where no one thinks it's going to be in the song. And that was like the catch of the song, like those two themes. It was like completely unassuming. That's On and Bound.
Very well put.
So without further ado, we're going to play that. And then when we come back, I'm going to ask about your YouTube video, the official video for this song. So let's play the song and then we'll come back.
Take it down on your higher ground, then you start to miss your mark. Push it down, find your place at home, circle round, then you go insane. And when I come down, not enough, and that is this time. So clear, so clear. Open up, you have been replaced. That's okay, you go up and you fly straight ahead, direction compromised. Go ahead, choose another side. And when I come down, not enough, and that is this time. So clear, so clear. Better so, Better sold, owned and bound again. Better sold, owned and bound again. Or just one way down. Say a prayer, change that prayer again. Let us meet, work around the clock. Place is set, owned and bound we are. And when I come down, blind enough, and that leaves this time so clear, so clear. Better sold, owned and bound again. 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 Start again, that's alright, everyone's your friend. Close your eyes, then it brings you back. For a second, you start to lose your track. And when I come down, blind enough, and that leaves this time so clear, so clear. Better sold, owned and bound again. Better sold, owned and bound again. Better sold, owned and bound again. Better sold, owned and bound again.
All right, and that song was On Bound, and your official video starts out, it says, the following is for immature audiences, which I think is hysterical. And you have a lot of very interesting video content. You got, some live concert shots. You have people dressed in unusual clothing. You have liquor being poured. So, you got... some elementary acting interspersed. Tell me about the video now that we've heard the song.
So this was an idea that I had had even prior to moving to Nashville, prior to joining any band. I thought it would be funny to get just a bunch of dudes, making a parody of just the bachelorette culture that takes place in downtown Nashville weekend after weekend. And, we shot the first sequences in my apartment on March 11th, just to give a timeline. And that was the night that the NBA announced that they'd be suspending the rest of their season. College basketball was about to go into March Madness, and everything was getting very serious with COVID-19.
Granted, nobody showed up except for
one of my great coworkers. Shout out Katie Norman for being my co-star in this.
Oh, is that the girl in the video?
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
pink shirt.
Actually, it's very true. Nobody showed up.
Nobody showed up, but it was good because she actually has a theatrical acting background. So if anyone were to show up, I'm glad it was her because she really just,
Yeah, she
got
was
serious.
She was wonderful.
Yeah. So in many ways, this shoot was just kind of, making do with what we had. And
Harry was as drunk as he acted to be when we shot it. And something happened when he put on the bachelorette clothing. Because he changed. He would be, very demanding. He'd be like, what? I'm acting in the video. Like, someone give me the Cheerios. It's the throw-up scene.
I was in cowboy boots that were way too small for my feet. I was in leggings borrowed from my lovely girlfriend that I definitely don't think she's worn since, just because.
Hasn't talked to him since then.
It was definitely,
Who's the pizza
more.
guy?
Pizza guy was my roommate, Brandon.
Okay.
Shout out Brandon Wimberly. Just really coming together of, all the bits and pieces. Basically the premise is just to make fun of all the ridiculous stuff that goes down in downtown Nashville on a weekly basis. I mean, there are plenty of Instagram, social media accounts that you can follow that just go through all the debauchery, whether it be the pedal taverns or the scooters, just the bride tribes wreaking havoc. I mean, it really is quite a spectacle. So
It was important for us to kill them at the end.
it was, yes. I think justice was served.
Justice was served at the end when we killed Perry.
Now, are you guys frustrated movie makers in musician clothing?
I feel like I am. I feel like I'm always just frustrated trying to make movies. I always try to make them on my computer, and my computer just doesn't cooperate. So, I'm pretty frustrated. Not to mention, literally this afternoon, we moved out of our rehearsal space that we filmed part of that music video in, and also we're practicing in the last 10 months, and I had to clean all the blood from that music video out of the space this morning. I have pictures.
The fact that it got all the way on the front end, I know it came out of the jug that was there, but it's like the scene itself was only really just a bit splattered on my chest and then the one on the mask, but really it was just all over the place.
We're not accounting for the people that died after the making of the video.
Yeah.
Was this shot partly in a storage facility?
It was, yes. In our
The murder scene was the murder scene
yeah,
where we wheeled Perry into the storage unit and subsequently stabbed him.
And just to give you a sense of the COVID music video shooting timeline, so like I said, the first parts of that music video was on March 11th, and that was probably the end of June, I want to say, that we actually finished all the shots we needed to start editing a music video that came out in mid-September. So, we obviously wanted to take necessary precautions. I'm glad we did. I'm glad we waited. I'm glad we were able to storyboard the shots that we wanted. And ultimately, I think it's something that is just so absurd and just, I don't know. I've always been a fan of those music videos where you just don't see the next scene coming. And shout out to, Russell and Ricky for rolling with me through this vision, because this was something.
Shout out to Perry for being so thankful that we killed him.
So do you guys admire like the Cars and Tom Petty? Because the music video "Don't Come Around Here No More" is just phenomenal, and some of the ones that Rick Ocasek did were just really spectacular too.
For Tom Petty, definitely "Last Dance with Mary Jane" is one that I've always appreciated.
Nashville's ruined that song for me.
I'm sure it has.
I worked as a sound engineer on Broadway for the last 4.5 years until I quit. But no, the "Don't Come Around Here Anymore." I'm drunk. I pressed that name wrong. That video is phenomenal. Not so much. I don't think I've seen that much of the Cars music videos.
Oh, some of the Cars videos with just what they did was very imaginative. A lot of music videos to save money are just concert footage. Although songs like Guns N' Roses' "Paradise City" is phenomenal because they just shoot all these different sequences in all these different gigantic stadiums around the world, and you just see it really just shows their immense popularity. But that's hard to do unless you're a spectacular, stadium, level band.
So the live performance sections of On and Bound were actually shot at the Sanctuary, which was basically this old barn shed converted to a semi-outdoor music venue, which is where we played our last show. It was a tornado benefit fundraiser on Friday, March 13th. 8 months ago. So that was definitely I'm glad we got in there when we did. Shout out to the Sanctuary. Shout out to
the house
who
just
was
got
there.
condemned the other day.
Yeah.
So, rest in peace, the Sanctuary.
We closed it out.
Wow. All right, tell me about Horrible TV.
Terrible, isn't it?
Horrible.
What does Kid Rock and the Murder Hornets have to do with Horrible TV?
For one, living in Nashville, Kid Rock's bar was just the poster child of doing the wrong thing during COVID. There's a pissing contest with Kid Rock's and the other bars. They're oh, well, Kid Rock's let everyone in during COVID, so we're going to let everyone in. Same time around the Murder Hornets news. So, us just being immature and awful, just joking about that stuff. But the cartoons are really Ricky's territory.
I would just say that Kid Rock is going to end the world.
So,
bringing the Murder Hornets and all that fun jazz.
So tell me about the quarantine live stream, Exploding Head, Sorry Not Sorry edition.
The scanner scene? I assume you're referencing?
I'm looking at your website. You have the quarantine live stream, Exploding Head, #, Sorry Not Sorry. So tell me about that.
Man.
And then maybe we can run that part of that we can run that visual as we're talking about it.
That was during the part of COVID where everybody was doing live streams, and we had professional advice being you guys just need to do a live stream. And we're just you know what? Everyone's doing a live stream. Who cares if we do it or not? And I don't even remember which one of us.
Oh,
it's funny if we played all different songs.
Oh,
and,
3 different songs.
Yeah, right. Let's make a stream. We'll promote it a normal. Hey, we're doing a live stream, but then we all play different songs at the same time, and then the head, the guy's head who explodes from scanners. That's just the nastiest thing. It's let's throw that guy in there somehow. And wait, I didn't make it. Did you make it, or did you make it, Ricky?
Harry?
Yeah, you guys sent me all the little quadrants, and it was just the most annoying thing because I'd have to do 1 square, and then 2 squares, and then 3 squares layered. And you guys were playing actual Spirit songs, and I was the third out of the 4 to come in, and I was just playing some random 5/4, take 5 drum grooves, and then 20 seconds later, in comes that head exploding scene. And I think it just kind of summed up that, no one wants to watch your Zoom stream.
I think there's a lot of Zoom. I think there's a lot of Zoom fatigue out there, whether you're a remote schooler or some corporate person who's had 5,000 Zoom meetings. It's just, or music. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I've seen from people's couches. Some actually incredibly famous, well-known people have done all these streaming sessions, and after a while, it just sadly does not have the feel of what live music represents. I can tell you that, at my father's place, it was nice to interview the bands, to meet them in the green room, to talk about their music on the couch with your feet up, to see them in the show, to get an autograph, to see the fan interaction, to see people express how some of the songs impacted their lives, seeing people like Sophie B. Hawkins get her child and put her child in her arms as she sang the encore song, or to see legends like Carmen Apicci of the Vanilla Fudge, at a sound check and just to talk to him about music, or to talk to people like Mike Riley of Pure Prairie League, or Mike Brewer of Brewer and Shipley. I mean, those guys have been around for over 5 decades, and they got tons of stories. And it was always nice to see who opened for them, or young bands, first talking about what influenced them. I know we had people like J.D. Cannon and Taz at my father's place. It was interesting to see them and Lara Hope, and somehow the Zoom experience just doesn't really capture any of the essence of that. It really doesn't. And I'm sure as musicians, you don't feel it. You don't get the applause. On the Zoom level, what is it like for you?
Well, even before the Zoom level, just getting back to the list of my father's place memories, one thing I do want to say, and it's very brief, was one of my highlights of my 2 years being a part of that team was getting Reverend Horton Heat to sign my copy of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 because I can't surf. And yeah, I don't know if I've even told you guys that story yet.
So let's hear the story. Let's hear the story in detail.
It was like a Christmas rockabilly themed hangout. So you had just guitars, a stool, and a microphone. I think it was him. It was the guy from the Blasters, Bill Alvin. So it was them. It was.
You know what's funny? He typed in the Blasters, and all of the stuff on the right is all guns.
It's like toys.
It's like
little.
We got
guns.
Coles, we got Target, we got Blasters, we got some little kid holding a little
there
Nerf
you
gun. And then we got you in a tuxedo, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Phil Alvin and Reverend Horton Heat. Like, just being a drummer and seeing guys who can absolutely shred on guitar. It's like, wow, I could literally spend the rest of my life even attempting this and not being good.
Well, let's put it this way: those guys have lots of miles ahead of you, but hopefully one day you'll in the same time frame, you'll look at the rearview mirror and go, wow, look at all the miles I've covered.
Yeah.
So,
but to answer your question, no more Zoom streams, please. If you're going to stream live music, please be all in the same room. Please be in either a venue or a studio setting. Otherwise, I'm not going to click on the link. I'm just not.
I get that. You know why? Because one of the things that my father's place is doing right now is they're doing some streams, but at least they're doing it from an empty my father's place. So at least they're taking advantage of everybody being in one place and the sound system.
They should.
Yeah. As opposed to basically telephone lines like what we're on.
Yep.
Let's face it, the telephone line only has so much sound quality in it. I mean, it's okay for a radio, but not necessary for the concert experience that you're trying to actually sell to ticket holders, So before we close, is there any other things that we need to discuss or share, or any cool little secrets that people don't know?
I think Ricky has a monologue he's preparing currently.
Do you have a closing monologue?
No, I'm currently.
So without further ado, I invite you to listen to Spirits Republic Music at spiritsrepublicmusic.com. And one day, hopefully soon, you get to see them perform live, either in Nashville or at a venue close to you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Thank you.